Subscribe, follow, like, share. Last Bell Boxing. These guys give you all the exclusives, and next time I get my fight date, it's going to be exclusive on here as well. So make sure you give them all a follow.
Welcome to the latest edition of Last Bell Boxing, proudly sponsored by SC Travel and LW Liftings. Can't quite believe I'm doing this video, but here we go. So, AJ career highlights to date. Bit of a caveat on that. We're going to pick it up from Dillian Whyte. Let's be honest, a couple of tough fights before then, but Dillian Whyte was truly when he probably came to people's attention. So, joined by Brett, all the way from Canada. Brett, I'm going to be nice on you today. I'm not going to call you a fanboy or anything like that. Let's keep it serious.
Listen, mate. Yeah, no, we can go serious, but you can also drop the banter in. Otherwise, it wouldn't be what me and you do, would it? So all good on my side.
I might be a bit high as a kite though, Brett, due to announcements that will be coming out shortly, obviously regarding the channel. So I might go a little bit easy on you tonight. So just feel free to hammer me.
I'll bring you back round at some point.
I'm sure you will. So let's kick off then. So obviously we're aware that AJ turned pro. First 6 fights, not much to talk about. Then jumped in with Skelton, Sprott, Johnson and Cornish and picked up WBC International belt. He picked up the Commonwealth belt. But we're going to start from Dillian Whyte because that's where we truly started to see AJ's personality. And this was a proper grudge match, wasn't it, Brett?
Yeah.
Obviously they met in the amateurs. Dillian Whyte was technically 1-0 up from the amateurs. So there's a lot of beef around this fight. So give us your memories of the build. The build-up was decent as well, so feel free to drop the build-up in. But give us your thoughts on this one, Brett.
Yeah, up until this point, like you say, he was steadily going about his business, knocking them all over. And then some of the names that you mentioned there, they're not bad warm-up fights for a heavyweight learning their trade. You're right. You're correctly saying the first 6 were, let's just get him out, make him look fantastic. And then there was a few kind of step-up fights in terms of where we're going with this train. When we get to the Dillian Whyte, the funniest thing about this is that Dillian was the first one to expose the real Anthony Joshua, if you like, because he'd been very well media trained up to this point.
Yeah.
Very well media trained. It's almost like unless you did a bit of digging, you didn't realize he'd been to jail, and you didn't realize he'd come from the streets of Watford and he went in the gym because he knew he was going to jail, so he wanted to learn how to throw a right hand properly. But Dillian Whyte told everybody that, and he kept on telling everybody that, calling him fake, saying, "You lot don't know the real. I know the real guy. This is all fake, and I'm going to expose him on fight night." And so build-up was great, and I think you've correctly. This is a good place to start, really, because this is the one that got everybody's eyes on him.
He did.
Even everybody in the game that knew a bit about something knew there was this top heavyweight coming through. Even top pros had been mentioning his name, like watch out for this boy. But then with a bit, as the British public do, we all like a bit of beef, and this was sold fantastically well. We'd have to do a bit of research, but I'm sure there was some absolute banging fights on this card as well. Wasn't maybe we'll go back to it, but I'm sure there was some like Bellew against somebody else, and like it was a night of it was an unbelievable card as well. But anyway, yeah, in terms of the fight, everyone was going into it. How long's this Dillian? Because no one knew anything about Dillian Whyte either.
Come up the hard way, right, Dillian? Come up the hard way.
As this ex-kickboxer who was banned early on in his career for supplements, as this ex-kickboxer going to be able to stand up? Yeah, he can talk a big game. Yeah, he knocked him down in the amateurs, but no one's standing in the way of AJ. And wow, did we get a shock? Because if the first round, the punches that were thrown afterwards, the fight should never have gone on.
No,
should it?
No.
Let's have it right.
No.
Should have been an instant
when
disqualification.
The on-charges started jumping in the ring, it should have been called to a halt, right? Job done.
I mean, the amount of boxing me and you have watched, we wouldn't have been shocked if that would have been a stop right there and then done. No contest. And then once we got back to that, did he hurt AJ in the second or the third?
I think it was the third.
The third, and to be honest, it almost sealed the AJ deficiency, that top of the head, that top of the head temple area, what Ruiz got him with.
Yeah.
He's shown it there if you can land it on him. And so his leg went, and then Dylan White just went wild, went street fighting.
Yeah.
If he'd have took his time, Carl, this may never even got here.
Yeah, I know I give AJ stick, but what I've got to say is that Dillian White victory has got better and better over the course of time, right?
Of course it has. At the time that they both did it, because Dillian White was tough as nails, and he was wild at that point, and but the bottom line is that he great corner work. They settled him down. He took a round or two off, didn't he? He just went sat back on the jab and stayed out of it. And then what ended the fight was what has been known as the way to knock Dylan White out, as well as the uppercut.
Yeah.
And he just absolutely starched him.
7th round. Yep. Beautiful right uppercut. And like I said, big fight for both of them at that stage of the career, because you had the British on the line, the Commonwealth, and the WBC interim. So there's a lot on the line for both fighters.
And it's fair to say AJ made Dylan White at that point, because he was going nowhere. He was no one knew anything about him, and then all of a sudden there's this cocky loudmouth that's nearly knocked AJ out, has gone on and had an unbelievable career. And don't get me wrong, we won't get into it, but Dylan White, very good domestically. He's earned a lot of money out of the game, and that was a fun fight. And I very often go back and watch that fight.
Yeah, brilliant. So moving on then, his next opponent was Charles Martin, which is the worst gimme ever in the world for a world title. IBF title. AJ just absolutely blew this guy away, didn't he? Absolutely blew him away.
Look, again, talk about the build-up. Good American, good talker, telling him he walks like a god on this earth in the gloves are off, and you're looking at going, all right, he's tall, he's he got some pop behind those shots, and then when AJ hit him with that right hand for the first time, and he dropped him.
Yeah.
AJ kind of looked around and went,
I've never felt that. Yeah.
So yeah, it was just, I mean, obviously Charles Martin, probably one of the worst heavyweights in my generation to have a world title. But at this point, this is where the AJ argument comes in, is that he was gifted a world title. But
I think Eddie, I mean, what a masterstroke by Eddie Hearn, though. I know he paid a lot of money to get him over, a lot of dough, but in terms of commercial value, it made AJ's stock fly, right? All of a sudden, IBF champion, looks apart, talks, very commercial savvy, talks corporate, etc. I think that was the start of a bit of a purple patch for AJ.
Yeah.
Because then we move on to dominant Brazil, and people I think people underestimate this victory, because Brazil come into this fight. Some people really fancied him, right? It was big, Ranger, looked the part. He had some good wins over in America. Some people are actually talking about Brazil being a problem for AJ.
Yeah, do you know what? Again, look,
hindsight's a great thing.
Yeah. When all's said and done, and everyone's retired from this era, we won't be talking about Brazil, will we?
No.
But he gave him a few rounds, which was surprising. And he was tough.
There for 7 rounds, Brett. 7 rounds.
He was tough. He was tough. I know that Wilder had knocked him out in 1 round, hadn't he, with that unbelievable thunder shot after this fight. So everyone was like, yeah, Brazil was nothing. But he didn't have a bad career. He fought at a decent level, and AJ had to take his time with this one. This was a bit of a learning experience for him. But I tell you, Brazil it didn't come feared of him. He didn't, even as you probably mentioned a few fights after him, some of them came in feared of him. He didn't. And he actually seen an interview with Johnny Nelson today talking to Big Baby Miller about the way to get at AJ to actually rattle him is to go personal. When you go personal, he loses that media trained savvy. And Brazil, remember when Brazil started whispering in his ear?
Yeah.
And then that was another first time we'd seen him say, hold my belt, right? What are we doing here? Like,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
because ultimately, he does come from that. He does come from that life.
Yeah. Yep. So then we move on to Eric Molina. I couldn't even remember him fighting Molina, I'll be honest with you, until I looked at his record. Must be a forgettable fight, Brett. I don't know, but give us your thoughts on that one. 3rd round TKO.
Molina didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
He absolutely shit himself. I can say that, can't I? He completely shit himself, because I remember, again, the gloves are off, and Johnny Nelson said something to him, and he was like, he kind of like just shrugged it and, I just got to come here and see what happens.
Yeah.
And he's like, he said, you're sat across from a world champion. What do you mean see what's going to happen? You want to be taking that belt, don't you? Or something to those effects. And you just knew that he was petrified of him. Because at this stage, mate, don't forget, and I know we go on and there's no fanboy in here. At this point, we're living this. Is this the next Mike Tyson?
Yeah.
We are at this point living this.
Yeah, and he was knocking people out for fun, wasn't it? Let's be honest. So then the next one was an intriguing one, and this is one that often a lot of Tyson Fury fans and AJ fans dispute a lot, and that's the Wladimir Klitschko one. So give us your thoughts on that one, because it was an aging Klitschko. He put AJ on his backside. Younger Klitschko finishes AJ that night. I don't know. I might have been a bit unfair on Joshua, but I think that was a good learning fight for AJ.
I totally agree with you, and I'm not even going to front it out and say that if peak Klitschko would have got rid of him after, because he hit him with a thunderous shot, an absolute thunderous shot. AJ got complacent because, again, he's knocked this man down. He's down.
Yeah.
And then he stood over him. If you remember, he stands over him, puts his hands up like that.
Yeah.
And typical Klitschko. I will say the difference between the Fury fight with Klitschko and this. Klitschko came to fight in this fight. Klitschko knew that he had to try and knock AJ out.
That's chance to lose him, wasn't it?
And I think he underestimated Tyson Fury. I think he just didn't know how awkward Tyson was going to be. But, to rise up off the canvas, AJ, and he even says when he goes back now, and I've seen interviews with them two talking together, he took three rounds off after receiving that, and just got his breath back.
Yeah, I think that was a good learning fight for AJ though.
And that's I've got the signed picture of it up in my den actually, but that uppercut, where he stretched his neck, that showed you how much Klitschko wanted it. Because that would have put most men out completely.
Yeah, interesting fight. I mean, April 2017, Brett. We're going back some, aren't we? Just shows you how long he's been around, right?
Yeah, you're right though. That is the fight, and some say that's the fight that took a bit of dog out of him, because then he was like, I can get caught and I can get hurt.
Yeah, I think the next fight took a bit out of him, although he won. So we move on to Carlos Takam in Cardiff. I think he proved a little bit tougher than AJ expected him to be, and even then he was a tough fighter, wasn't he?
Yeah, Takam won't get the credit, obviously, but Takam was an awkward night's work for anybody.
Yeah.
And the one thing that AJ always struggles with is if fighters sit on his chest. Smaller fighters, if he goes in with like smaller fighters, and Takam sits on his chest, and it was just an awkward night. But again, awkward night, got the job done.
Got him out of there around 10. So then we move on to Joe Parker for the IBF, IBO, and WBO. Parker started to prove just what he was about in that fight, right? Went to points. From what I can remember, though, AJ kind of, I wouldn't say dominated the fight, but there's only one clear winner from my memory.
Yeah. And I think what you said earlier, as the fight ages, this Parker win becomes a lot better now, doesn't it?
He does, obviously.
Yeah, because of what he's gone on now. I know he's had a blip himself,
but because he's trainer as well.
Because he's what he's gone on to do, and what people feel about him in the industry now. It wasn't a great fight, mate. It was a spectacle. I think it's one of the highest viewed fights of AJ's. It was a spectacle. but it wasn't a great fight. AJ sat behind the jab, went Olympic style. This is where I think he got that kind of mentality with I know we're going on to Usyk, but I can box as well.
Yeah.
I think he got a bit cocky with himself from this because he boxed well. And the other thing is, I would say, is that probably at this stage was a little bit of fear from Joseph Parker as well. He didn't commit.
Best win of his career. But
to date.
He'll be up there, isn't it?
Well, again, but at that point, you're just saying, well, what's next? But I would, well, yeah, I think that's a fair statement, actually. I never actually even thought about that, but that's definitely got to be up there.
Yeah, it's got to be up there, hasn't it? So he moves on from Joe Parker to Povetkin. And this is another fight that really passes me by a little bit, a round 7 victory at Wembley. Do you recall this one, Brett?
Yeah, I do. He, again, smaller fighter. But at this point, Povetkin had only got 1 loss on his record, I think. And it was against Klitschko.
I think you're right.
And Povetkin had seen the game plan of what Takam had done and went on his chest, tucked in, went on his chest. And I think he smashed AJ with an overhand right in round 2 and broke his nose. So AJ couldn't actually breathe for the remainder of the fight. But he did take him out in devastating fashion. Clipped him, and then he went back for the second bit, and then bang.
So then we move on to the great New York adventures. This is where Eddie Hearn wanted to open AJ up to the American market. It was due to fight Baby Miller, right? He pulls out, and then he gets a fight with Ruiz Jr. And then goes on to obviously get beat in round 7 at MSG. Absolute disaster for the brand that is AJ, right? And my recollection of that fight is AJ, for some reason or other, just didn't turn up on the night. Give us your thoughts.
I think he was all gung-ho for this big Baby Miller fight. Eddie had plowed a load of money into the New York show.
A lot of verbals, wasn't there? A lot of verbals between Miller and AJ.
Yeah, complete theatre. And then obviously we get the announcement that he's failed not 1 but 2 different drugs tests. Blah blah. So then we get this, what seemingly this fat heavyweight that's out of shape but can punch a little bit. That went the distance with Joseph Parker. It's going to be, media wise, it's going to be a look at AJ. And look at him, it's going to be an easy night's work. They underestimate. It's bad matchmaking, of course. Everything with hindsight, it's bad matchmaking. A guy with fast hands. AJ's out there living the superstar lifestyle. Eddie's praying him in everything. However, there is a rumor about this camp, Carl, that an unknown heavyweight, Joey Dueco, concussed AJ in sparring. Right. 10 days before the fight, and he was Joey Dueco. Have a look at him afterwards. Joey Dueco was like a fatter heavyweight, same type of thing, and it's alleged that Joey Dueco concussed him 10 days out, and so when AJ finally got it tapped on the head, and he went so quickly from what didn't look like a big shot. There's an alleged, maybe it'll never come out, but there's a strong rumor that he got dropped and really badly hurt in sparring, and it was leading up to that one. But even just watching him walk out, he looked an absolute $1 million. Like, he just massive rip. The American audience just like, who is this guy? Wow, he's got absolutely everything. He starts out sharp, starts out fast, and there was some training clips of him practicing the 1-2 hook uppercut, and that's what he dropped him with. But the thing is, when you go back and watch it, Ruiz's eyes were completely clear. He landed with both arms behind his back, which sometimes ain't a good sign. And he looked up and he was clear. And then moments later, he hits him on that sweet spot, boom, and then it was Bambi legs from there on out. Yeah,
I don't think brand AJ has ever recovered in North America, right? In that territory from that defeat.
Not a chance, mate. I mean, even obviously we banter her, but when we're on Twitter X, there's not a lot of American fans that are having him at all. And it stems from that night.
So then Proctor AJ jumps into a rematch in December 2019 out in Saudi. Different administration to Turkey had a shaking at that time.
Yeah.
Give us your thoughts about the rematch where, let's be honest, Ruiz Jr. was grossly unfit, right?
Well, you know, it's that whole thing in it. It's hard to get up and go for a run when you've got silk bed sheets, and if the little bits of clips that were coming out from Ruiz leading up, you know, he's finally got a fridge full of beer and meat, and like showing everybody he's gone from making hardly any money to being a multi-millionaire, and he believed his own hype. Because if you think about it, mate, yeah, he knew AJ was heavy-handed, but because he convincingly battered him, he probably didn't think, you know, because all his career he's gone in overweight, eating KFC and all the rest of it. He thought he just had to turn up to win. And again, the alleged thing there is that before he got on the scales at AJ, they had to pull him out the buffet. Ruiz, that's how unprofessional he was leading into this fight. They literally said, "Come on, you're about to weigh in," and he was eating Chinese food at the buffet. And then in terms of the AJ performance, Rob McCracken took him way back to the Olympics. Jab, go for a walk. Jab, go for a walk. Jab, go for a walk.
Yeah, I feel for AJ during this fight, because I think because Ruiz Jr. did come in so overweight and unfit, it take a little bit away from just how good AJ was. He did what he needed to do, right?
It was almost punch perfect.
Yeah.
Ruiz didn't get near him, and I think this is what fans of his would say, is that he showed you that he can have that style, but the bottom line is knowing when to use it and who to use it against.
Yeah. So then we move on to another fight that I don't really recall, but to be honest, and that's Pulev at Wembley Arena.
Yeah.
So I'll let you take us through this one, because I don't really recall the fight. So again, I don't know whether that was just, you know, a walk in the park for AJ. I suppose it was.
Full on COVID, mate. We'd come out of lockdown a little bit, and then it was the first. I think it was one of the only sporting events where they allowed 1,000 people sat separately in the arena.
Right.
It might have been, you know, we got Wembley Stadium, and we got what's the other bit? Wembley Arena. Yeah. So we got Wembley. He was at Wembley Arena. Pulev was good value in terms of, like, he came all lively. Was saying he was going to knock AJ out. He's you know, he's obviously a few sandwiches short of a decent picnic anyway. He's a bit nutty.
So there's a days in the bubbles and all that lot in the hotels, right? Them sort of days.
Yeah. It wasn't fight camp, but it was. It was. But anyway, he did what he had to do in this fight. And some fans say like it wasn't a good performance, but he knocked him over 4 times in the fight. Hit him in one round, hit him with a triple uppercut. And then the fight should have been stopped because he hit Pulev with an uppercut, or he hit him with a straight. And Pulev turned around and put his hands on the back of his head.
Right.
And the referee turned him around, and then he stopped, and then he banged him, knocked him out. So yeah, look, it was COVID, so we took anything we could get, but it wasn't a great performance.
So then we move on to the first Usyk fight, September 2021. Obviously, unanimous decision for Usyk. So break this one down for us, but there is a supplementary question coming. Which one was his best? Answer it afterwards, but just think about which one was his best performance, the first fight or the second. So let's talk about the first one first.
Yeah, I mean, just very strange.
Fought the wrong fight, right?
Very strange. And this was the last fight with McCracken won it.
Yeah, and let's not forget, people had AJ as a heavy favourite going into this fight, didn't they?
I'd listen. Yes and no. I'm like because we were sat there waiting for Wilder and Fury again, weren't we? It was around those times.
Yeah. I thought AJ was absolutely going to smash Usyk because he just wasn't big enough, and that's come back to bite me a few times.
Well, me personally, I was like, I think he's fucking risking it again. I did see it as a banana skin because of how good Usyk was as a cruiserweight.
Yeah.
And then he goes in and fights this fight. Once again, Usyk, who's your toughest fight? Derek Chisora. Why?
Yeah.
Derek Chisora stuck it on him.
Yeah.
And so in this fight, he tried to box him, and he just, even in those early rounds, Usyk does the downloading information thing, but Usyk was like, "Are you really coming to box me?"
He wasn't listening to me cracking at that fight, was there? Something had
No.
gone by that point, hadn't it?
Yeah, the relationship had strained by then. And it was probably AJ said, "I'm going to do it my way. I know how to win this fight." And you know, it wasn't even close, was it? I mean, he got comfortably beat. And is it fight one where actually, if there'd have been 20, 30 more seconds left, he might have got him out there.
Yeah, he might have done. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the second one in the following August, that was where AJ had that bit of a meltdown after the fight, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Not nice to see. Listen, there's no disgrace in losing to Usyk, is there? I just think he ran out of ideas, Brett, in that second fight.
Well, you know, this is the one I would point to that AJ was better in this fight, in my opinion. A little bit more aggressive. Had moments where he hurt. Did he have him? He had him hurt in the 8th or 9th.
Who was it? Derek James in his corner, or had Ben Davison stepped in by now?
James.
Yeah, see, that is surprised. That
No. Hold on. He went with Garcia.
Garcia, that was in between Davison and James.
That one fight he had with him,
yeah.
And he had Usyk hurt. Was it round 8, round 9?
Yeah.
And then going into the last 2 rounds, AJ had a chance of winning, and then Usyk just give him a boxing clinic for the last 2 rounds.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'd have to go back and look at what my original scorecard was, but I definitely had Usyk winning by 2 rounds in that one as well.
And then we enter this funny phase, don't we, where he fights, we call it AJ 2.0, where he jumps in with Franklin, Hellenius, Wallin. He's with Derek James. I'm not sure when Ben Davison stepped into the fold. Was it Wallin? I'm not sure. But him and Derek James didn't work, did it? Let's be honest, Brett. It just didn't work. For me, anyway.
No, it didn't. It didn't. So, and then James had him in with Franklin, and then they weren't happy because he was massively. That was a shot fighter right there. Yeah. AJ against Franklin was a shot fighter. It was a guy that didn't trust himself.
Didn't pull the trigger.
Didn't trust anything. Didn't want to get hurt. Felt the weight of the nation slagging him off.
Yeah.
And Derek James don't work like that. Derek James fighters seek blood.
Yeah.
And so you could already see some cracks on that one straight away. And then I think the next one's Hellenius in it.
Yeah. And then one in after that. There's nothing fights for him. I'm not being critical of AJ, but yeah, I mean, I don't know when did Ben Davison step in, Brett? Was it Wallin or Hellenius?
Wallin. Hellenius. Derek James' last fight with him was with Hellenius.
Right, okay. So the only thing I'm thankful for is what AJ did with Ngannou, what Tyson couldn't do, and that was give boxing a bit of dignity back. Let's be frank, because Ngannou was making noises once about doing more and more boxing.
Look, Ngannou was genius to step in at the time that he did. He's made himself a rack load of money, and fair play to him. But yeah, just to step it back to that Wallin fight.
Yeah.
That because Ben Davison's going to get a little bit of stick for the Dubois stuff, right? But that is what Ben Davison does. He laser focused him back in. He was okay. It was only Wallin, whatever. He's been beat by most, but he was razor sharp. His jab was fantastic.
Yeah.
He sat behind his right. He was finally throwing his right hand, and so you got a little bit excited. And then coming into the Ngannou fight, it's what a world-class level boxer should do to a world-class level MMA fighter.
I've got to give him some props though. He had a lot of pressure on his back, having had Ngannou go the distance and arguably some people say beat Tyson Fury. So yes, he was jumping in with a UFC ex-fighter, but people really were looking to AJ to put this guy to bed, right?
Yeah, I mean, some of the obviously you got to be careful, ain't you? Because DAZN commentators are biased to AJ.
Allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly. But some say that's the hard in all the fights that they've ever. That second right hand that put him out is the hardest hearing sounding shot that they've ever heard, and you can see when his legs bent, and it's a textbook right hand that you'll ever see, regardless if it's against Ngannou. It doesn't matter. That's a textbook right hand.
Although the only flip side for me playing devil's advocate, a world-class fighter doesn't get caught by that shot. Not clean.
100%, mate. Because he was stood there, wasn't he? He was just stood there waiting for it. Yeah.
I'll take your point. It folded him in two, and he's a big old lump in there.
Yeah.
I was at the press conference for that fight, and he's bigger than AJ. He's a big lump. To fold him up like that, there's got to be some shot.
Yeah.
So then we move on to his last fight to date, which is Daniel Dubois, September last year. So, like I said, I was there for the fight. I was there all fight week. It shocked me because AJ looked as cool as during all fight week. He looked $1 million. And we all thought we had the old AJ back, right? We thought this was a done deal. Not sure about the corner instructions from Ben Davies. I'm a massive fan, by the way, massive fan. But he's now saying telling him to go and roll the dice meant something else to them. But it clearly looked like AJ took it as roll the dice, right, and go out on your sword, which isn't great. So give us your thoughts on this fight then, Brett.
Yeah, as much as, this is where we can say the AJ fanboy thing. I think the tactics from Dubois' team was spot on. And let me tell you why. Because now you're looking and going, are those sparring stories true? And what I mean by that is this young buck Dubois allegedly stuck it on AJ in sparring, dropped him a couple of times. And so when that bell rings, Dubois has gone, I know what to do here. I've done it to him before. I'm just going to run after him and stick it right on him. And again, we can have a pop at AJ all you want. Some heavyweights that have been finished by that shot he took in round one.
Yeah.
It's an unbelievable shot he's took.
Yeah.
He's took the whiskers right off him.
I still wonder how much of it is Dubois had a good night and AJ had an absolute stinker. That, let's just calm down on Dubois. Let's see what happens in a couple of weeks, because AJ couldn't have performed any worse that night, could he? Let's be honest. He didn't look right walking to the ring.
No, he did not. Right. He tripped when he got in the ring.
Yeah, so I'm wondering, is it somewhere in the middle? Let's just calm down on Dubois until we find out.
Look, I'm trying to be humble for Daniel Dubois, but if you really want my analysis on it, what AJ's fundamentals were awful.
Yeah.
I mean, even that last shot when he's gone to throw the uppercut from his midriff.
Yeah.
And Dubois just caught him, and good night Vienna.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, I'm not. I want Daniel to do very, very well. I've warmed to him.
Yeah.
I know tonight's show is not about him and the times that he's potentially not carried on when he could have carried on. But ultimately, he was spot on that night, and AJ wasn't. So, I do feel like though that fight is completely. We may never see AJ the way that we think we're going to see him again.
I agree.
The only thing I'm thinking though, Carl, on this is that there is one more big fight in him. There's one more payday. And the reason why he's not making too much noise right now, he's waiting to see where the cards fall.
Yeah.
Because Matchroom would have not had him at the rebrand as much as front as so focused as he was if he's on about handing his resignation in. It's there's one more big fight somewhere.
Well, we've had a look back. Now let's finish off by having a look forward. I think there's going to be a 3-fight deal for AJ and for Fury. I think they'll have a warm-up, and then I think they'll have a 2-fight deal between themselves. That's my prediction as we sit here now in July 2025. Do I think AJ wins a title again? No, probably not, to be fair. But I agree. I think a warm-up and then a 2-fight deal with Tyson Fury, and they both sail off into the sunset, having a few quid. What says you, Brett?
It'd be interesting to see what their private WhatsApp messages are like, mate. Are we just go on, Tyson, carry on saying he retired, but we know that we're going to make some of the biggest money British boxers have ever earned. Well, we will make the biggest money that British boxers have ever earned. We need each other. They generally do need each other. Yeah. Look, do we really want to see the Usyk Fury 3 fight?
No.
Yeah, well, yeah, we do because we love fighting, don't we? We'll watch it, won't we?
Not
Like, it's-
over an AJ fight, though, right? Not over
No.
an AJ fight.
No.
And I think it's
No.
very clever putting by Tyson Fury not to be putting AJ's name in his mouth. Just keep talking about Usyk and let Turkey Al-Sheikh keep rattling them pound notes up on the table. That's my own opinion.
Hopefully, look, do I think AJ would not? There's talk that he might fancy that Baby Miller fight as an interim fight before he gets to him, because that'll give him the recognition, the global, the money, everything that he wants from it. Outside of Usyk, Dubois, and Fury, that's the biggest money you can earn in a fight right now, and it's probably the one that carries the least risk. Because you don't want to be taking on a Fabio Wardley, you don't want to be taking on a Justice Hooney, you don't want to be taking on any of them, because that could really upset the plan. But I'll go with you, mate. And the reason why I'll go with you is because I think that Turkey will probably pay world record money to see this fight. So we're going to see it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much for your time, fella. Anyone watching the video, like, comment, subscribe. Agree, disagree, post your comments below. We always respond. This has been Last Bell Boxing, proudly sponsored by SC Travel and LW Lifting. Couple of special videos being recorded tomorrow and later on in the week, so keep your eyes out on the channel. This has been Last Bell Boxing. See you on the next video. Cheers, bro.